Well, the two-day forum begins in Antalya today, and Soraya Lennie is there. She joins us now live with Somalia's Minister of Foreign Affairs. Soraya.
Andrea, thank you very much. Yes, we're here in Antalya for this conference. There's more than 300 ministers and delegates, including from the private sector, and around 54 African nations who have come here to discuss and find ways to enhance development, rural development and food security, of course, in Africa, particularly sub-Saharan Africa, where food security and actually feeding a population goes hand in hand with actual physical security. Now, as you mentioned, we're joined by the Foreign Minister of Somalia, MinisterYusuf Garaad. Omar, thank you very much for joining us, sir.
Thank you.
First question, now in terms of the situation in Somalia now, there are competing interests within a federal government, regional government, there is drought, there is famine, there is militancy. How does the government, a very new government, get anything done to assist the people and to pull them out of this mess?
All these problems existed when we came to power, and we had a meeting, long meetings, and discussed about these issues. And our strategy is that we have identified three main enemies in Somalia, of the government and of the people. And they are corruption, which has to do with governance. The second enemy is Al-Shabaab and terrorism. In general, it's insecurity. And the third element is poverty. And all three of them are interlinked, and they depend on each other. And we are fighting all three of them in one go, but the one we are now very much working and are very serious about is fighting corruption. So we can do work on development, we can work on insecurity. So those are the three major enemies in Somalia that this government has a priority to fight against. Otherwise, in general, we are leading a foreign policy that's based on peaceful coexistence in the region and in the wider world.
You mentioned Al-Shabaab there. Now, there's been talk very recently of an amnesty that's been offered to the group. Is that correct?
That's correct. The president announced that there will be a serious fight against Al-Shabaab. But in the meantime, those individuals within Al-Shabaab, particularly the young people who are the foot soldiers in Al-Shabaab, who wanted to leave the group and come back and lead a normal life, are allowed to come back to their families.
Has Al-Shabaab accepted this amnesty?
Al-Shabaab hasn't accepted as a group. But it's some programs that have been ongoing on for some time, and it's some security issue that I'm not prepared to discuss further.
Okay, you mentioned security, and obviously there's a lot of foreign military involvement, including from the African Union, but further abroad in Somalia, and helping Somalia to fight this militancy. Very recently, we saw this decision from the United States to send in troops, the first time in about 20 years. Can you describe, though, how engaged are U.S. troops in Somalia now?
The announcement by the U.S. President Trump, is that he will be sending troops to train Somali forces, and we appreciate to receive training. And the African peacekeeping force you mentioned, we are very grateful that the African peacekeeping force has been there supporting the government, supporting the population, and enhancing security in Somalia, and we are hoping gradually to take over from them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. That was the Foreign Minister, Yusuf Garaad Omar, Foreign Minister of Somalia, here at the Agricultural Conference in Antalya. Andrea?